Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hong Kong Open Space. Today's talk for this session is practices and the possibilities of online learning and teaching in foreign language education. I'm the speaker for this session. I'm Masayuki Hirata. Let me introduce myself before we go on to our talk. My name is Dr. Hirata Masayuki. I did a PhD in City University of Hong Kong in linguistics and translation. And my MA is from the Lancaster University in the UK. I did in the corpus linguistics. And also my BA is from Waseda University in Tokyo. So my interests are in corpus linguistics and also cognitive linguistics theoretically, and computational linguistics, and I've been teaching Japanese and English in Japan and also in Hong Kong. Before doing a PhD, I was a lexicographer. Do you know what lexicographers do? They write dictionaries. So this is the project I worked on, and I was managing editor for one of these projects. So I'm sure you have seen my name in Hong Kong. If I write my name in Japanese, we can use kanji and also hiragana and katakana. And I'm sure you have seen bus number 15, which has my name on it. So that's a part of the package I always do in my class for my self-introduction. I'm a college lecturer at the Hong Kong U Space now, and I do teach introductory Japanese and also a certificate in Japanese this year. So that's an upper intermediate course. And also introduction to Japanese linguistics, English-Japanese translation and statistics. And also I teach Japanese sake appreciation. All right, today's talk, the title is the practices and the possibilities of online learning and teaching in foreign language education. This is not something we present some cutting edge technology or any new methodology in online teaching, but it's rather a summary of our 4 months online teaching trial for Japanese courses. And we want to share some challenges and difficulties we experienced those 15 weeks. And we want to analyze the result of the questionnaire we did during these 15 weeks. So my talk will be basically based on the result of this questionnaire we carried out towards the end of this 15 weeks. All right. During the Chinese New Year holiday, I was in Okinawa Prefecture, one of the islands, the Miyako Island, which is only a 2-hour flight from Hong Kong to there. It's a very little island, and the weather wasn't so good, but the island was very beautiful, and I was relaxing. And then when I was staying there, I got a text message that all classes were suspended after the holiday. So from there onwards, we carried out 15 weeks of online lessons. So my first online session was 20th February 2020, and until May 30th 2020. So this is the picture, actual picture for my first online lecture, and towards the end of the lecture. So 15 weeks was a kind of a long experience. And we didn't expect this will go on like this long. So like if you look at the picture, compare them, probably I look exactly younger 15 weeks before. And after 15 weeks, I look a bit older, having all these sessions online. Having said that, I believe in technology. When I was working for a publishing industry, there was an arrival of a British National Corpus, which changes the way we compile the dictionary totally. And all the industry, all the dictionaries compiling has gone through all the transformation in terms of making dictionary. So Oxford, Macmillan, Cambridge, and I was working for Longman and Colville. every dictionary went through all this transformation. And all the dictionary became corpus-based at that time. If you haven't heard any word, corpus, it's a digitalized database for language. And this is the example. This is a keyword in context, and you can analyze the keyword and how the words come together before and after the words. And all these morphologically analyzed data where you have the parts of speech information in the database, so that we can extract the important information like a collocation and statistical information on the use of language. And for my project, we did the same for the Japanese. This is the example of Japanese corpus, also morphologically analyzed, and the parts of speech information annotated in the corpus. And we did the same procedure for compiling Japanese side, extracting collocation, statistical information, and so on. And that technology goes on. This is a slide where I quoted from one of my translation class. And I often compare the human translators' translations with the machine translations. For example, Google Translate, and also this one is the DeepL, is from the German company, where they use the deep learning technology for their translation. And the improvement for the machine translation has been massive for these few recent years. All right, but when talking about doing the language courses online, there's a kind of a commonly held myth that the online classes are not suitable for language education. We cannot do much interaction online, and we should be in the same classroom in order to communicate with teachers and classmates. These kind of opinions, even before we started the online session, and I had these opinions while we were doing it, and even after we finished the online classes. And those are from teachers as well as students. So there's a kind of a common understanding, oh, maybe the online is not for language education. All right, so for my talk today, I want to try to find out the answers for these questions. Is online teaching unsuitable for language learning and teaching? What are the specific difficulties in teaching language online? And also, is there any area that is more suitable for online teaching than face-to-face sessions when we teach languages? And do we have any market for online language teaching courses? That's something we want to find out as a Hong Kong Space Oriental Studies. So we did carry out the large-scale survey among our adult learners of Japanese. And mainly, my talk today is based on the result of those questionnaire. All right, before I go on to the result of the questionnaire, let me give you the background for courses. So our regular course for Japanese, 40 weeks, right, runs throughout the year. One session per week and 3 hours per session. And we have like a midterm exam, oral exam, final exam, quiz around 10 for each year, and lots of homework. And the level we have from zero beginners to advanced learners. We call them from year 1 to year 8. All right. Our teachers, including full-time and also part-time teachers, most of our full-time and part-time instructors had almost no experience in teaching online. And some of them, only a few of them, had experienced online teaching earlier because of the social events in Hong Kong in late 2019. And also, the software we used was Adobe Virtual Classroom. This wasn't really the team's choice, but we were given this software from the school. So there was no alternative but to stick with this software. So that's the background. And anyway, we had to start the online teaching, and we had to start training instructors first. So for the first training for all the full-time and the part-time teachers, we physically gathered all the teachers in a computer room in one of the learning centers. So at that point, we didn't have, even have the idea doing the training online, because nobody had experienced that technology yet. Afterwards, subsequently, we offered a couple of training during these 15 weeks to share our ideas online teaching and using the same Adobe virtual classroom. So it meant a lot doing this 15 weeks, and now we can do our training, even training online to the teachers at the moment. So when we did the first training, some of them, only a few of them experienced the teaching online. And one of the teacher who had experienced the online teaching told us the experience was just like being a DJ or a YouTuber. That's the situation I'm now in. Just talking to the camera, and there's no interaction going on. So the idea behind that was just a one-way communication. All right, so that's kind of the image in the beginning we had for the online teaching. So anyway, we had to start our training for teachers in mid-February, and it continued our teaching until the end of May. And towards the end, at the end of the April, we decided to carry out the questionnaire, how students are feeling, because we were kind of in the dark. We couldn't understand how much % of the students are happy with our approach, whether we deliver online and so on. And often asking to the teachers, they couldn't answer, because it's not always easy for them to get the reaction from the students online. All right, so this is the questionnaire we carried, of course, online. And mainly, I will go through these findings today. So the first question, what level are you in? So we have from year 1 to year 8, and the breakup for this is the around 50% is year 1 and year 2, so the beginner level. And subsequently, we have a year 3, 12.8%, and then year 4, and so on. All right, we asked also the age group, thinking, we had some comments from students that they experienced the technical problems, and we wondered if anything to do with the generation and so on. But this data shows us that maybe the age wasn't the main contributing factor for the technical problems and so on. As you can see, our students, the largest amount is in their 30s, and the next one is in their 20s and so on. So the age groups would be looking like this, and the actually the satisfaction rate shows no, really the age is the main factor for having the technical troubles. All right, and we wanted to ask, where do you attend our online classes? Because sometimes when I do the online classes, when I switch on the student's microphone, I can hear some background noise and some unstable Wi-Fi and so on. So we wondered where they take our online courses. We often thought maybe they are taking our online classes during their commute or somewhere like a cafe and so on. But this answer clearly indicated that close to 95% of students actually take our online classes at home, okay, which was a good news for us. And also, what device we didn't know. Some people probably they might use the mobile phone for taking our classes. Again, this finding shows that close to 80% of them use the computer, which was also a good news for us because the size matters. This is the basic layout of the screen we use for online courses. So in the center is the main. Usually we use PowerPoint, and upper right is the my face showing as a video, and then the participant information, and also like where you can type in your opinions and so on. So this screen is obviously probably too small for mobile phone, but we were kind of relieved to know that a lot of students use the computers for their when they take online courses. Right. We had to ask the students install a proper software so that they can have a stable connection with online courses. And they do carry out what we request, and 95% of the students installed the software, the application to their computers. But constant follow-up was necessary. Even if you install the application in the computer, it doesn't mean that you are actually opening that virtual classroom in the software. And still, like 30% of people open the virtual classroom in the browser, which is less stable in terms of connection and sound reception and so on. And we had a lot of teachers telling me that, oh no, students don't have headsets, all right? They cannot interact with us because they only had the earphone. And I couldn't really believe those situations where everyone uses the mobile phone, and it comes with the headset with the microphone. So we asked the students how many of them have the headphone and the microphone. So the motivation for that was of course, we wanted to avoid being like a DJ or a YouTuber, which is the only one-way communication when we deliver online courses. So for the teacher side, the team quickly decided to provide all the full-time and the part-time teachers with the proper headsets. So that was a great procedure to go through for us, but we cannot possibly provide all the students with the headsets and the microphone. So according to this questionnaire, only 40% of students had the proper headsets, which has a microphone function. A lot of them only earphone and so on. And we further asked, would you like to purchase one, the proper headset, so that we can communicate, you can participate more in the classroom? And 17% of students said no to this question. All right. Also, the webcam, it will be better if the teachers can look at the student's face on the screen, so that it's like a communication between us and also students. So we wonder how many students have the webcam, because they use the computers around slightly more than 50% on the webcam with the devices. However, when we asked, would you like to share your images with us when we are doing the class, more than 85% of the students said no. Okay, so it was very difficult, although we wanted to deliver the online classes more interactive way, but they didn't have a proper headsets, and also they didn't want to share the camera with us. So the question like this: what areas of online classes do you want us to improve more? 40% of students said, oh, we want more interaction, but if you don't have a headset and also if you don't want to turn on your webcam, it will be really difficult for us. Which is technology is already there that during these few months, a lot of people had to communicate through the web conference and all that, exchanging their opinions and so on. So it's not quite the limitation of the technology, but it's more like a mindset how you want to take our courses and also how much you want to use the technology. So this shows kind of a difficulty in the beginning that we couldn't do much interaction between ourselves and the students. So mutual agreement is necessary in order to ensure the interactive and the communicative language learning experience through online courses. Mutual understanding between the course providers and also students is necessary, that the students should be properly equipped with sufficient devices and they are willing to participate in the class. We are not in the position to blame students because this course is never meant to be online. So this is the contingency situation where we had to switch to online. So, but in the future, if we want to carry on the online classes, then we have to have the proper devices, and also we have to ask students that they are willing to share their images and also opinions while we do classes. All right, so commonly held myths, we cannot do much interaction online. It's partially true. And we had the technical problems, not only what areas of online classes do you want us to improve. Sound quality, a lot of students responded, like over 60%. So what was the major problem, and also other like some devices and so on. So it is true that we had some technical issues while we're doing these online courses for 15 weeks. All right. Some of the opinions about the technical issues, another student's answer appeared after 3 or 5 minutes. This really happened, witnessed in one of our videos. And also can receive sound properly sometimes. Microphone couldn't work. Microphone voice not clear. Sometimes microphone or headset not work. So a lot of people actually had trouble with the sound. The volume is a little low, although I can still listen the audio. Audio device suddenly got disconnected sometimes. This also, when I was doing my own class, students reported to me. And they have a difficulty in using a mobile to log in. This also had to do with some application matters. My microphone did not function, and hanging, voice breaking up, a lot of people say that. And the unstable Wi-Fi at the teacher site always hung and the disconnected lecture. And I failed to connect with the microphone. So this technical issue was quite visible there, and we teachers alone cannot solve these problems. So if we want to further go on with the online, this is also the matters concerning with the school and so on. So the school has endorsed to further develop online teaching. This is one of the document we got. The school has in any event identified that the more online learning is an inevitable direction for the future. This is not to replace face-to-face learning entirely. This will continue to be important for Hong Kong learners. But we now have the capacity to make use of the technology more effectively to support students. This is the era of blended learning and the new normal. So we clearly need to some of these technical problems we experienced during these 15 weeks. All right, some comments on the lecture content. Some students having a lesson with notes which will distribute to students normally. So sometimes the mindset for students is based on the face-to-face session. Again, this is not the student's fault because this course was not designed for online to begin with. And a lot of students said if I got question, not as easy as a face-to-face class. So a lot of students mentioned difficulty in asking questions, not easy to ask questions, cannot do much interaction. Teacher needs to be more directing and talk and lead more. So for teachers, for ourselves, this was the first experience. So probably we were not really good in designing and directing classes. Cannot respond or ask questions straight away. Rundown is not the structure and the lack of direction. Don't know what is asking or talking. Lecture content is more one-way communication than passive. Hard to focus without asking and answering questions immediately. No issues at all. Teaching quality is same as usual. Some classes or some students gave us quite positive replies. Not enough explanation as teacher, only get the idea of our progress through one particular proactive student. I thought this comment is very interesting because rather than like in face-to-face session, it's sometimes difficult to grasp the atmosphere in the classroom, where if you were in the physical classroom, you kind of understand immediately how much % of students understand what I'm talking about and so on. But if we cannot see everyone, it's always one students who are proactive, then we had to rely on that information, which was probably not good during the online. So software functions, what they liked about the online. The chat function was quite popular among them. But this one, the lower level students of Japanese, some of them, they didn't know how to type Japanese, so that was a trouble. And function like a poll, and we had the breakouts function. I assume not many teachers try to use this function. It's a slightly complicated. It's like the function we put the students in a smaller group where they can communicate to each other. But because of the lack of experience and also the practice, it wasn't really successful using this function. All right. But the other comments, particularly visible in the questionnaire, was that a lot of students like the recording function so that they can review the lecture afterwards, allow us to practice typing in Japanese. So some students like the typing in our lessons, recording, no traveling time required. Okay, class recording, PowerPoint presentation is well understood. It's actually rather than looking at the screen in the face-to-face session, if they use computers, it's clearly visible in the computers. And all of us can participate in making sentences with a new vocabulary. I'll come back to this point later. And view course contents, again, if necessary. Again, this is a video. And the instant review on class assignment, save traveling time, lesson recording, and also screen capture can capture key point, so easier to look at the screen, and session recordings. So obviously, there are many people who like the recording function, and also it saved their traveling time rather than physically going to the class. There was an issue about the selection of the software. As I said in the earlier slide, that we didn't have any capacity to select the software. The virtual classroom was the only option we were assigned. But a lot of teachers, even before we started and while we were doing the online courses, Zoom is better. Zoom is easier to use and more user-friendly. So there was kind of a concern, and the connection, some people say, are very stable and easy to use. But this one showed an interesting turnout later on when we did ask the question about this. So we asked the students, have you used the Zoom before? And the 50%, over 50% has used it before. And we further asked, if yes, which software do you prefer, Zoom or virtual classroom? And more than 60% of students prefer virtual classroom because obviously the privacy issues and the security concern, and also security reasons, and already got used to the software. So school now has given us the option to use the virtual classroom and also the Zoom, but we haven't really have the formal opinion about the security and so on. So these technical issues like which software we use, one of them is security is IT matter, and also the functionality and so on is like they need input from teachers and so on. So something like this has to be discussed further before we decide the final software we want to use for the further implementation of the online courses. All right, this graph is the most important for us. We were kind of in the dark. We didn't know how much percent of students are happy, unhappy, and so on doing our online courses. This is the breakup. Can you guess which one is which? So actually, it turned out more than 10% of the students felt they are very satisfied with our approach for the online courses. More than 50% satisfied. So putting them together, over 60% of students were happy with our contingency online approach for the courses. Around a quarter of them were not very satisfied or satisfied at all, and 15% of students said neutral. So up to now, I think our approach was more or less accepted by students. But if we want to further develop our online courses, then we have to improve our technical issues and also our content for the online courses. I wondered if the level mattered for the satisfaction rate. My impression was the lower level students might have the more difficulties, but this result showed not much. It doesn't mean that the lower level had experienced more difficulties. So now we are in the process of analyzing each level and their satisfaction ratio. All right. And for a lot of people, of course, the safety came first, and more than 67% of students were okay for us to carry out the classes online unless the safety is guaranteed. Only a quarter of students were asking they want to resume the face-to-face session as soon as possible. So, do we have a market for teaching language online? This is, of course, the figure is only for the contingency period, and we have to improve technically and also the content, I understand. But a lot of students actually like some of the features on the online, like recording, and also it's more convenient to attend class at home, and also save traveling time. saving transportation fee, and can rewatch the content of the lecture. And I can go back to view the class recording anytime, save transportation time, and won't be forced to answer questions. Recording, which can be replayed for self-revision, can save traveling time. Traveling time is reduced, and so on. So it gave us a lot of information on our 15 weeks of online lessons from February to late March. And from the 1st June to 2020, we resumed our face-to-face session. So some of the teachers' reactions, I interviewed them back in the face-to-face classrooms. We can see the students' reaction immediately. That's quite a big change for teachers who couldn't see the students' face directly, but now they can see their reaction immediately. There are students who are more active online sessions than face-to-face sessions, or vice versa. I think this is an interesting point. Some students like the online features and they participated more, or the other way around. There are students who did not join the online sessions but came back with the face-to-face sessions, and the opposite also happened. And the Hong Kong students like lecture style classes, therefore the online sessions were accepted smoothly, one of the teachers' opinion. And it is taking more time than usual to get to know students better because of the online sessions. So 15 weeks is around 40% of the whole week. So maybe it was difficult a little bit for us to get to know more about the students. I find it interesting to get the opinion from one of our full-time teachers that when you do the communication online, it's like from teachers to students, teachers to individual students. If we're lucky, it's both way, but sometimes one way. But when you go back to the face-to-face session, it's more like a natural communication where the communication between students naturally breaks out. So that's the clearly visible difference we noticed during these 15 weeks. So we should be in the same classroom in order to communicate with teachers and classmates. That's maybe true in the case of the spontaneous, natural communication. All right, but was there any features that particularly good when we did in online rather than face-to-face session? So this is my opinion and experience. Comparing everyone's writing, and I also teach translation, in one go is one of the feature that I thought is pretty good in online sessions. So this is one of my students in one of my classes. When I did the session, I thought I'm really back in the analog face-to-face session where students writing their answers on the board. What I tried during these online classes, when we're doing the virtual classroom, beforehand we prepare the questions through the Google Forms, and then we just send the link to the students through the chat box, and the students click on the link and they go to the Google Forms, because a lot of actually students use computers, so it's not difficult at all. And then they can answer my questions immediately, so that I can compare a lot of students' writing in one go. So it looks like this screen where I have a question there, and the following lines there, the students answer to the question. So it doesn't take long to compare all the students' writing on the same question. I have a short video, actual online lessons using this procedure let's have a look. Is the sound okay? Coding is playing okay on your end. I have asked the questions on the Google Forms, and I am correcting their students' writing one by one, looking at their answers on the same questions. All right, I'm going to skip this video. It's just the example. So for online examination, we also did the examination, the midterm examination online, and it looked like this. We prepared the multiple questions, and also this system was based on our Moodle, and some technical issues also not being able to display pictures. For example, we knew beforehand that the audio didn't play in the previous trial, so we had to give up giving the listening comprehension examination. And sometimes exam pages were disconnected when many students were taking the exams. And the browser issues, some browser display the questions correctly, but not sometimes in the other browsers. And also like a mobile phone, iPad, and so on, the device issue. So this is one of the example where the picture didn't show in the exam, where that information is absolutely necessary to take the exam. All right, so the possible future directions I want to suggest. Currently, we have 40 weeks, 1 session per week, 3 hours per session, midterm exam, 10 quiz, homework, and so on. This is my suggestion to the further development of online courses. At the moment, we have a 3 hours, 40 weeks session in one wagon run by one teacher. Input, output, all together. We just put the students in one basket. So that's bounded by timing and also grouping, location, and the same teacher. So my suggestion, the time is just an example. For example, 120 minutes online, and then we select teachers who are good in delivering online content to students. And then this can be done online with to many students, and this should be mainly the input. So this is more flexible in terms of timing and also grouping and the location, which are the features a lot of the students liked during these 15 weeks of our trial. And then following that, 60 minutes of a face-to-face session, which we divide a student into a smaller group, and we assign many teachers for face-to-face sessions. And this is for output rather than input. After the online sessions, they can put what they learned into practice with the face-to-face sessions with the native speakers of Japanese or proficient speakers of Japanese. So a smaller group output, interaction, and the face-to-face experience. All right, if I want to name this, this is like an online-based flip learning, where you take the input by online and experience the output by a face-to-face session. So this is done with the leverage of the technology, not by depending on more manpower and so on. So this has we can do this because of the power of the technology. So this is what I already started discussing with the team and seeking for the possibility for the future. So conclusions is online teaching unsuitable for language learning and teaching. Yes, in some areas, however, it may be unsuitable, not due to a limitation of the technology, but it could be because of the lack of proper equipment and the mindset. What are the specific difficulties in teaching languages online? Interaction in physical classroom is more spontaneous and natural, so that's why I suggested that part should be kept as an face-to-face. Is there any area that is more suitable for online teaching than face-to-face sessions when we teach languages? There are many students who use computers to take online classes. Therefore, exchanging a piece of writing, a composition, a translation can be done instantly. So this is a good area we can develop further. And a lot of people like the flexibility on time, and also recordings can be used for revision. Do we have any market for online language teaching courses? Well, there are some advantages and disadvantages for online courses. A possible solution is to combine online and face-to-face sessions. Okay, so also there's a course replaceable by online. I did this open space last year with my Japanese sake appreciation, and I was so much ready to do again this year, but nobody mentioned it, so I switched the topic. But last year we gathered in classroom and tried this sake. This is from my hometown, Sendai, which is a quite good sake, and we tried another bottle. So I am looking forward to having this opportunity next year, getting together again face-to-face in the next open space session. All right, thank you very much. And now I would like to take on the questions from the audience. Thank you. Okay, one of the questions I got here: what do you pay attention to most when you prepare for online lecture? All right. In my earlier slide, it's like some of the teacher mentioned. It's like being like a DJ or YouTuber. So I try to not to continue to give the information from only teacher's side, but make it shorter and ask questions in between to students, so that they can have more reaction to what we were talking about, and that they can answer, keep thinking about the questions and so on. So breaking up the contents in a smaller chunk embedded with the questions in between was a sort of a strategy I took when I did my online courses. The other question: many people have expressed their concern regarding the security problem of an online lecture. Could you tell your opinion? Yes. So obviously, when I talked about the selection of the software, whether we want to use a Zoom or a virtual classroom, the security issue is something not only teachers can solve, and also that involved with the whole school, the approach of the security when we want to deliver the lectures to the students. So that has to be interacted with the teachers and also the school for the further development of the this kind of course. What is the most important elements that online lesson should have? What is the most important element? What is the most important element we should have? At the moment, what I can think of is that we can separate some of the learning experience, like having more input from the lecture, or you try to experience like more practice for output, just like the model I presented towards the end. So at the moment, well, the technology is there, but we need more methodology, and also like a practice for teachers' side, and more awareness on the student side that we can actually use the technology to fluently communicate more. But it's one way to think about like separating input and output, and we can mainly focus on the input function when we go through the online lectures, and then practice more output face-to-face sessions. So that's my opinion for this question. Okay, so any other questions do I have? Okay, if not, is it okay? One more question, okay. I'm just waiting for one more question. Thank you. So how will the team spirit between the classmates affect online class? How will the team spirit between the classmates affect the online class? I assume like the communication among the students if we do the online. I think this is a good question where I asked several of my students what they thought about our online classes. And actually, some students who said some of them, they started out their sessions online first before meeting anybody, even the instructors. And they find it a bit difficult to really share opinions or communicate easy with their classmates because they know none of them to each other. But the other classes like started in the last autumn, where they have already developed some of the good relationship among the students. So in those classes, the communication was actually more active, even in online. But for those classes which started online, had a bit of time required to warm up as a whole class. Okay, and the another questions. Adult education is a wide range of students. Their background is different. Can you have some opinion to try to make easier to treat different age group, right? Okay, so that's true. The adult learners have a lot of different background and also the different age group. So for that, particularly, we were worried in the beginning when we started out the online sessions if they need more technical advice. But that didn't seem to be the age group did matter too much for their understanding of technology and so on. But it's true that we need to be aware of those background differences, diverse differences among the adult learners, especially. for our school. So probably we should think about there could be a different type of background awareness we should have when we do the classes online. Thank you very much. And how can I practice oral at home when learning foreign language? Yes. So this should be my last questions. It's true. It's very difficult to train yourselves alone at home when you are doing the oral practice. So again, I might be repeating my statement again, but from here onwards, if we want to prepare the proper online courses, then maybe when we do the online sessions, it's more like an input for your understanding, and probably you can just repeat in front of the camera, which is not much probably. But anticipating, if you can have the subsequent face-to-face sessions, which is more focused on production, then it could be a solution. So thank you very much for a lot of input, and these questions are really helpful to further design our online courses. So this is all from me, and thank you very much for joining this session. And my last slides, I was saying, I hope to see you in one of our courses in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you.